Councilor Tam, would you like to take the meeting?
Yes, I would. Thank you very much. We will start this evening. May you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is Pastor Welch here this evening? Here we are.
Kirk and his wife Corey have a new grandbaby that was born last night in Seattle, so they're on a flight out there. I'm Blake Gillen. I work with Kirk, so I'll be praying.
I know Pastor Welch. I was like, man, you've really had a life change. We'll make sure he knows that.
Okay.
This is on YouTube, so we'll send the
That
video.
sounds good. Thank you. Heavenly Father, we do thank you for tonight. Lord, we thank you that you're sovereign, you're the creator, you're the sustainer of everything. Lord, you spoke the world into existence. We thank you, Father, that though we have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, you still love us and sent your Son, Jesus, to die in our place on the cross and rise again for our salvation. We thank you for that gift. We pray tonight that you would give us wisdom in all that we do. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. And also congratulations to the Welches. The Welches have some phenomenal kids that are now having some phenomenal kids, I'm sure, so which is fantastic. Let's note the presence of a quorum.
Noah Herron.
Here.
Chad Huff. Victor McCarty.
Here.
Patrick Tam.
Here.
Kurt Wanninger.
Here.
John Dart.
Here.
Joe Deppner. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. We have no changes to the agenda this evening. We do have the next item on our agenda is the approval of minutes from July 8th, 2024. Assuming all of us have had a chance to review those. We need a motion and a second.
After review of the minutes of July 8th, 2024, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilor Wanninger, seconded by Councilor McCarty. Any further discussion? Seeing none, may we call the roll?
Victor McCarty.
Yes.
Patrick Tam.
Yes.
Kurt Wanninger.
Yes.
John Dart.
Yes.
Noah Herron.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-2. Well, sorry, wouldn't be 5-2. 5-0.
5-0.
Yes, thank you.
Gotcha. Thank you. We have the claims this evening for July 22nd, 2024, assuming we've all reviewed those as well. We need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to approve claims for July 22nd, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilor Herron, seconded by Councilor Dart. Any further discussion? Seeing none, may we call the roll?
Patrick Tam.
Yes.
Kurt Wanninger.
Yes.
John Dart.
Yes.
Noah Herron.
Yes.
Victor McCarty. Yes. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Director Todd, do we have any residents that wish to address the council this evening? Okay, thank you. We do have a proclamation this evening recognizing the American with Disabilities Act. I will read the proclamation this evening from the City of Westfield. Whereas the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed on July 26, 1990 to ensure the civil rights of citizens with disabilities, and whereas the City of Westfield affirms the principles of equality and inclusion for persons with disabilities as set forth for the state of Indiana as embodied in the ADA, the laws of the state of Indiana, and ordinances of Westfield. Whereas numerous organizations in Westfield and Indiana work with constituents and communities to bring forth the promise of hope and freedom that is envisioned by the passage of the ADA. Whereas on July 26th, the City of Westfield celebrates and acknowledges the 34th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Now, therefore, Scott Willis, Mayor of City of Westfield, do hereby proclaim July 26, 2024 as Americans with Disabilities Act Awareness Day in the City of Westfield, Indiana, and extend greetings and best wishes to all observing as Americans with Disabilities Act Awareness Day. In witness thereof, the Mayor has herein set his hand and caused to be affixed the Great Seal of the City of Westfield, Indiana, on this 22nd day of July 2024. And then the next order of business is Mr. Trinian. We're going to have a mid-year update on Grand Park.
First off, President Tam, congratulations on pronouncing my name correctly on the first try. I greatly appreciate that.
You never know. There's a second.
As noted, this is the mid-year report on Grant Park. Again, Matt Trinian on behalf of the facility. During this presentation today, you'll see a few things. You'll see financials as of July 1st. You'll see visitation report. You'll see utilization report, and you'll see an overview of the capital projects that we did throughout the year thus far. As we look at campus wins for the facility, we're proud to sign a partnership with Coca-Cola, switching the campus from their competitor to Coke this year. It's been a great transition. Been great to have that brand acknowledgement on campus, and our guests have taken kindly to that. Some of these statistics you've seen quite a bit, as Janelle has done a phenomenal job of sharing the wins of the 16th most visited sports complex, stadium, arena, and convention center. The campus was listed 16th in the nation with a little over 5.5 million visits in 2023. We're also the #1 most visited competitive sports complex under the same study that you guys had seen. And then we were recently voted the #1 sports facility for lacrosse and soccer by Sports Events magazine. As we look at current financial data, again, I want to note that I say current, but this is as of July 1st to give you the first 2 quarters in summary. We had just under $3 million in revenue, just a little shy of $2 million in expenses. Our capital outlay for 2024 has been to the total of about $3.2 million. Our cash balance as of the July 1st date was just shy of $3.7 million, and our investments is cash that has grown over time to just shy of $3.2 million. In comparison, from 2023, those numbers, the revenue numbers are up by a little over $100,000. Our expenses are down by a little over $100,000, and we are proud to see our investment grow. When we put the $3 million in a little over a year ago, that $200,000 increase, we're excited to see. So just kind of give you some background on where we sit financials as of July 1st. That capital outlay really boils down to 3 primary projects on the campus. Working left to right, the left is parking lot J, and if you've ever spent any time in lot J over the last 10 years, you're extremely thankful that we went ahead and paved that portion of the project, or that portion of the facility. That project would not have been feasible without the help of the Public Works Department. Michael Pierce, Alex Wilson, and a handful of others helped us tremendously in guiding that project to the completion, and has really changed the face, as that entry point that you see there is one of the primary entry points to the diamond side of the facility. Really cleaned that up and made it the space that it really needed to be, adding probably close to 80 parking spots additional to where we were parking there last year, and then enhancing the visitor experience and a safe experience with that parking lot. The center image is fields 6 through 8 on the field sports side of the campus. Dating back to 2023, we re-turfed F2, 3, 4, and 5. These last 3 fields were the last portion of that project. This now allows us to have a new turf surface for all of our events to utilize. And we're extremely thankful that that project was able to get done in time for our first event this past February. On the right, Diamond Light project on D6 through D9. This project would not have been possible without a few partners that I want to note here. Bullpen Tournaments paid into this project directly out of their coffers. Hamilton County Tourism and the Hamilton County Sports Authority supplied a grant to assist with this project, and then we dipped into the Diamond Escrow and Grant Park budget to pay off that project. So all 3 of these projects were complete with cash, no financing, but really proud of these 3 as they, 1, enhance the facility, but 2, have added more visitation to the facility. Specifically, the lights have allowed us to add 2 more game slots on those four diamonds, and with the help and work collaboratively with Bullpen, we anticipate that in the future we'll probably do more of that on the campus, given the success that it's had. This slide here really breaks down the utilization for the campus. So really 2 main columns rode out into the different areas on the campus. The top row is the event center. The second row is turf on the field sports side of the campus. The third row is grass utilization on the campus. And then the final row is diamond usage. And so you may be thinking, we have 26 weeks in half the year. The number on the right of the first column is really representative of the available weekends during that portion of time. So specifically calling out our grass, we typically only open grass in mid-April, just given the climate, given the conditions. We don't like to open grass too early as it may be detrimental to the remainder of our season. But you can see that the left column was showing available, the potential of available large event weekends. That doesn't mean to say that we were quote unquote dormant or lack of activity on the other weekends. This just calls out major events during those weekends. And I think what this also shows is the seasonality that Janelle reported on in her most recent report. The diamonds are very heavily used during the middle of the calendar year, with the field sports side and the event center being heavily utilized in the winter, spring, and then picked up more heavily in the fall. So I think as we start to pan this out over the calendar year, it'll get closer to 50-50. But this is really a good show of that seasonality that Janelle was calling out with the sports that are impacted on the campus, with the obvious note of we're always looking to maximize that utilization. Just wanted to give you this to kind of compare the different surfaces that we have on the campus. This slide here represents the visitation to campus. So we are a little over 1.7 million visits as of the 1st of July. A little over 145,000 athletes had been on campus. A little over 840,000 visitors, and just shy of 10,000 teams. What we're seeing here from a trend perspective is our visits, athletes, and teams are actually up from 2023 to 2024. And I think Janelle even reported us as well, but the amount of visitors coming with those athletes is starting to decline a little bit. So we're starting to see that trend. We're working to try and implement events that bring as many people as possible, but it's a real trend that we're seeing. But our visits and numbers that we really can control with the output of the games continues to rise. Finally, I'd love to take any questions that you may have at this time, and appreciate the time that you've allowed me to share the successes of Grant Park throughout the first part of this calendar year.
Thank you, Mr. Trenning. I have a couple questions. So lighting, we lit one more quad. You said there was 2 more time slots in each evening, roughly. So that equates out to about 32 teams, additional 32 teams a weekend. Is that my math?
That's right.
And conversations correct? So it's 32 more teams for one quad. The lighting cost about 1.2.
1.3 for this
1.3
specific
for that.
project. Yep.
And then the parking lot, Jay,
Yep.
thanks for getting that done after my kids are done playing at Grand Park.
We did that. We paused till you got out of
Did
there.
you? I appreciate that. They're now on to college baseball, but I appreciate that. The turf lifespan, can you talk a little bit about that? I have a pretty good idea on that, but just for people in the audience and those listening.
Yeah, certainly. With the outdoor surface, specifically, I'm going to really highlight the field sports side briefly here, because that's the project that we did this past winter. The original turf that went in the outdoor field sports fields was a monofilament, so a single blade of grass, and as we had wear and tear, you would see the fibers start to pull up. That span of play lasted about 10 years, and that's on par with the industry standard. The selection of turf that we went with in this new iteration is more of a thatch, cross thatch, more durable, allows for a higher level of play at a longer level of play. And I anticipate that turf will last longer than that 10 years. In a lot of ways, the manufacturer and the installer that we decided to roll with probably said we could have gotten a few more years out of the existing turf, but we were starting to see holes and we were putting Band-Aids on a lot of areas. Didn't really allow for a level playing field, for lack of a better term, during all activity. But this new turf that we decided to go with will be more durable, allows us to have that clean surface. And again, as the most visited sports campus, we want all of our fields to be representative of that. And so that's why we made that decision. So that 10-year lifespan is typical. Indoor, we're anticipating that being a little more extended given the lack of elements. And then diamonds, we've done some infield turf repair and replacement over the last few seasons. The outfields have been untouched and will remain as such for quite some time.
You're still planning on a lot of the outfields being grass, so, I mean, that's. currently
Majority
the
of
plan.
them are grass, yes.
Right. But you also do a lot of maintenance on that turf.
Do.
Throughout the entire season, which most people probably have absolutely zero idea about.
Yeah, a lot of man hours go into the grooming, the catting, the litter catting, just the different maintenance pieces to elongate that lifespan, and a lot of time that you don't see. But weekly maintenance is done on those, and then if there are repairs needed, our staff is trained and equipped to be able to take those repairs on as opposed to bidding that out.
So how about the, did you use mots?
We did use moats, yep.
Moats, mots, yeah. The one piece though too, just because of some tourism studies I'm pretty familiar with, what you're seeing is it's pretty much across the board. As the economy is a little bit shaky, gas prices are still a little different. There's less, if you will, family members traveling with those athletes. Baseball alone, as the kids get older, you just have less parents. Softball, their neighbors come with them, but that's a different conversation. The piece on this, though, how many grass fields do we have left on the soccer lacrosse side?
Yeah, on the field sports side of the campus, we're comprised of 7 outdoor turf fields and then 24 natural grass fields. And then with the 3 indoor fields, we comprise of 34 fields to be able to put out for our tournaments and events on the field sports side of the campus.
In all seriousness, though, it is good to parking lot J, because that's where the little kids are. So I was kind of shocked for years that the little kid parking lot wasn't the one that was getting some attention. So I do appreciate that. Do you have anyone else?
Yeah, question, the council was, received an email last week about safety at Grand Park. Can you just address what your team has done and what things you're potentially considering to ensure that the athletes and other visitors are safe when they come to Grand Park?
Yeah, so there's several tiers there. I think for that specific incident, we've elevated that to do some additional oversight with our police, and I don't want to get too much into their detail. I'll let them do that during the appropriate timing. But from a management perspective, we have tiers of staff that are able to mitigate any potential risk at any certain level, and when it reaches a certain threshold, that's when we call in the police. So feel really good about those safety measures. On the Diamond side specifically, you have several touch points with staff before you get to the field. On the field sports side of the campus, we have staff monitoring the play, monitoring people in the area. On an event like this past weekend where we had the Diamond side full of softball and baseball activity and the field sports side full of lacrosse activity, several staff on site with PD monitoring the area, and then additional parking staff on site to ensure the safety of the guests coming to the facility.
So you've got personnel.
We have the personnel that
Potential cameras and
Yes.
parking lots in and around the buildings?
So we've been working with Mr. Larson's team to look at additional cameras throughout the facility, specifically in the parking lot areas. I know that's a major point of concern, but our camera network is expanding on the campus.
Thank you. I have, so could you go back to the slide with the 1.6 million visitors, or 1.7 million visitors? So that's 1.7 million unique visitors. Is my terminology correct?
That's visits to the campus. That is not unique. No,
Okay.
that is multiple visits to the campus.
So in some cases, we're told, so for the people, even for counselors, we have different ways of counting. Can you kind of go through?
Yeah, so I want to really be intentional in how I report this, because I know that there's the 5.5 million that was reported on for Grand Park encapsulates all of Grand Park, inclusive of private entities such as the Pacers Athletic Center and Wrights Gymnastics. These numbers are specifically for the assets that Grand Park is responsible for, and when I say Grand Park, the city of Westfield, in the Diamond side of the facility, field sports side of the facility, and the event center. So excludes ProX, Pacers Athletic Center, and Wrights. And I think when you start to add those things, that's where you see the elevated number. These numbers, and again, another point on that is those numbers were drawn from Placer AI, which we currently do not have a license for. So for lack of a better term, we are only as good as the information we have. And so this data is driven from third-party event owners reporting back on how many teams, how many athletes, and then there are multipliers added. I'd be more than happy to showcase the data Excel sheet that we have to equate to these numbers. But these numbers are up from 2023's numbers where we had a little over, I think, 1.6 million to date at this point.
So Matt, the Visit Hamilton County folks have that placer
Yep.
data, correct? Can you?
To my awareness, they do, yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do.
Yeah.
I use it for other things.
There you
So the piece, though, you talked about, which I think is important to realize, you are also tracking where people are coming from.
That's right.
And you're also tracking, if you will, rebates on hotel rooms and those types
are.
of things. So earlier in your comments, so you said that trend is up as well. It's something I always ask Bullpen, for example, every week, I think, of what are out-of-state versus in-state versus hotel versus non-hotel players are. So what, are you seeing a positive trend on that or
Yeah, from a
down?
hotel room night perspective, we're seeing that drive up. I'd be lying to you if I wasn't telling you that people are always trying to find their way around that block and stay in Airbnbs, et cetera, et cetera. You're well aware of that. But from a room night perspective, we're on track to exceed our 2023 numbers. So I think the upward trajectory of athletes and visitation that we have direct control of, and the amount of games played, the amount of events attracted to the facility is on the incline.
So what happens with that rebate, though, that comes back when they're staying in that block? Can you explain that?
Yeah, the rebate, that is a cash flow and a revenue source for Grand Park. In some regards, for certain events, it's utilized as a negotiating tool to attract those events to our community. As we're out at different trade shows and events and trying to procure these competitive tournaments or events, that's a tool that we utilize to negotiate and different splits on that rebate. But for the most part, that does return back to the facility to be able to be reinvested back towards
That's why it's
improving the
important to
facility.
track them, so yeah.
That's right.
Thanks.
That's right.
Thanks. I don't have, Victor?
I just wanted to say thank you for the meteor update. Always appreciate the work you guys do, and looking forward to being out with you over the next couple weeks for Coles Camp.
Yeah, we have that little event going on here
Yeah.
soon, so we're excited about that.
Yeah. Seeing no other questions, thank you very much, and thanks for the humoring me with the questions as well. Appreciate it.
You got Trinian right, but not Moats.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Well, and I've actually used them on a project before.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Thank you. So we have no old business this evening. Moving on to new business, we have ordinance 24-39, the Common Council of the City of Westfield authorizing and approving an additional appropriation from the operating balance of the general fund. This evening will be presented by Ms. Tolan.
I'm actually going to have Caitlin kind of kick it off, and then I'll assist.
Thanks. So this is a request for $300,000 in additional appropriations to fund legal services and charges. The 2024 budget for this was $150,000 set by last year's council. And if you'll remember back, I think in around February, the council passed an ordinance to appropriate an additional $200,000 for legal expenses. But this amount actually didn't transfer because a separate legal department was never created. My department stayed under admin, so that $200,000 was not successfully appropriated to that area. We're currently at pretty much the end of the money for this budgeted for 2024. That's working with the 150 figure, not the additional 200 that was voted on. If you all approve this, it would be used to cover essential legal services. Just a few examples are all of our litigation that isn't covered by insurance. That includes eminent domain cases, which there have been a lot of recently. Plan Commission, BZA, some of our general planning work, IP, so like trademarks, things like that. Code enforcement and specialized legal counsel for certain projects where we need it. Sometimes things like build, operate, transfer projects, things like that. This is an additional $100,000 as opposed to the $200,000 that was requested last time. That just reflects the pace the city is growing at and the need for all these legal services. It needs to be quick and sufficient and often specialized. So I did reach out about this as well and didn't get many questions, but I'm happy to help explain or answer any other questions.
Question, So I understand the request for this budget year, but what's your expectation for next year? I mean, will this only continue to increase because of the activity in the city and the legal advice and services that we need, or will it remain the same? I'm just trying to get an idea, and is this the, I guess, the best solution to the concern, or the best solution versus maybe
We've been having.
maybe even looking at
Yeah.
a head count, right?
Yes, we're having a lot of those conversations. It's hard to do a cost comparison just based on invoices from this past 6 months. And then since there was no in-house last year, that it's hard to look at that. But we are doing a lot of talking about what would be best and most cost efficient. So those conversations are happening. I agree with you. We definitely need to.
What was approved in 2000, so that was last council approving this for 2024. What was approved in 2023? Do you know by any chance? Or 2022?
Don't know. I'd have to
I mean,
look
did we
back
go
and
from
see
a
if
big
it's
number to a
online.
very small number?
Yes, I believe
or
it was
did we-
over 600,000 last year that was in the budget for legal. Now, they had multiple additional
Yes.
appropriations last year because of legal fees and issues that were happening amongst the previous administration. But that's what that was budgeted for last year. So they had cut it from 600,000 to 150,000 coming into this year.
Thank you.
So agree with you, Council?
Yes, that's a
Members?
really
Are-
good
that
point.
We are looking at what best to look at this department or, you know, in the future, and how do we best serve, you know, the staff and you guys and the clerk treasurer. And it's been quite overwhelming for Caitlin to handle everything on her own.
I think Counselor Dart's point, though, that the level of activity is pretty significant. We also are doing a lot of different things with redevelopment commission that may not have happened even in the totality of the last 8 years, let alone the last 4. So those things, as we try to get ready for those and getting TIF dollars appropriate allocations, working with the clerk treasurer to do so, there's been quite a bit. And then some things just unfortunately legally weren't set up properly to keep it as simple as possible. So there's been some pretty good solutions brought to us by a lot of different outside counsel, which I've been thankful for, frankly, as a counselor and frankly as a taxpayer too. So, but I do appreciate it. We could suspend the rules this evening if other counselors would be so inclined. This is pretty straightforward, but I'm going to leave that open to
I
other
would
counselors.
ask definitely if we could do that. We have some outstanding bills that are kind of waiting in the wings for this appropriation.
Before I make a motion, Caitlin, thanks for the detailed email. That was very thorough. It's like you're a lawyer. But no, would really appreciate that. That's probably why you didn't get a lot of questions. So very detailed. So on that note, I'd make a motion that we suspend the rules tonight for ordinance 2439.
Second.
So we have a motion to suspend the rules made by Counselor Waniger, seconded by Counselor McCarty. We do need a unanimous vote on this, but first, we do open it up for discussion as well. Seeing none.
Oh, there
Go
does
ahead.
need to be a public hearing. Sorry.
Because there's an appropriation. Thank you. One of these
Yep.
days I'll get it right.
Sorry
I'm just
about that.
focusing on getting
No, me
Trinian's
too.
name right tonight. That's all I'm doing. So we do open up a public hearing. It is 7:28. For anyone that would like to discuss this, you may please come forward to the podium at any time. Seeing no one moving, we're going to close the public hearing at 7:29. Now, thank you.
Then I would do another motion to suspend, do everything, discussion, all of that, and then,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry.
You're fine.
I'll reaffirm my motion to suspend the rules for ordinance 2439.
Second.
So we have a motion made by Counselor Waniger, seconded by Counselor McCarty. Seeing no other discussion, may we call the roll?
Kurt Wanninger,
Yes.
John Dart,
Yes.
Noah Herron,
Yes.
Victor McCarty,
Yes.
Patrick Tam.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
So we have suspended the rules. Now we need a motion and a second to proactively, if it is our choice, to vote on this ordinance 24-39 this evening.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 24-39.
Second.
We have a motion made by Counselor Herron, seconded by Counselor Dart. Seeing no other discussion, may we call the roll?
John Dart,
Yes.
Noah Herron,
Yes.
sorry, correcting a little flub. Victor McCurdy,
Yes.
Patrick Tam,
Yes.
Kurt Wanninger.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have the Westfield Yard PUD, which is ordinance 24-41. Tonight, we have Mr. Collingwood here from the Planning Department for a brief presentation.
Thank you, President. Members of the council, good evening. For the record, Ryan Collingwood with the Community Development Department. The item presented before you this evening is the Westfield Yard Plan Unit Development District. This rezone request is to establish the zoning for a new for-sale townhome community. The subject real estate is about 11 acres in size and is generally located at the southwest corner of SR 32 and Gray Road, as seen on the screen. The residential development is proposing both 2- and 3-story townhome products, as seen in the provided architectural elevation exhibits. The PUD proposal permits as many as 70 total townhomes. There are additional exhibits embedded within the proposed ordinance exhibit in which address amenity and landscaping elements within the development. This petition is slated for its council first reading tonight and a public hearing at the APC's August 5th meeting. The petitioner and their representative are both here tonight. They are available for any questions, as am I if you have any for staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Ryan. Do we have anyone who's, that's what I thought. I think there is some questions this evening. I know I have a couple.
Good evening, John Dobashewitz with Nelson and Frankenberger. We represent the petitioner. Grand Communities, Rob Hayes with Grand Communities is here, as well as Nate Hollinger with Fisher Homes, and Jim Schinnever, attorney with our office. Be glad to address any questions that the council may have and receive input.
One of the questions that a couple counselors asked was the elevations. John, just if we can kind of pop to the elevations. And a couple folks in our different departments asked the questions. Facing, if you look at the overall site plan, the main front door, it appears to us, is facing the alleys versus facing outward to like where the Midland Trail may be or other outward,
If you can go to the
outward places.
And the page 3 of the 3-story. This is the elevation that would be adjacent to the Midland Trail. The garage doors face internal to the site.
Correct.
On the first level, there's a patio and an entrance. Second level, there's the large window set there, as well as an entry door to the patio that's on the second level. And the third level, you can see, we did receive input on that, and the client is working with their architect on making enhancements. So we understand that that's a concern, both in the roof line, and this is what we'll present to the Plan Commission as we get input at committee. We'll also circle back with the administration and then forward on to the council where we're at with those, so you can see them. So we're not going to wait to come back for adoption consideration and lay it on you in terms of what the modification was. We want to get your further input if it's necessary along the way. But some enhancements are being made to the roof line. Some other enhancements in terms of the building materials as well are made on that back elevation that would be consistent with that front, the front elevation, because we understand that Midland frontage is as much the front door as internal to the site.
Hey, John, what changes or modifications have been made as far as building materials go?
You'll see it's all consistent horizontal siding, so there's an introduction to vertical siding, and then the roof elements. You can go back to the front elevation, Kevin. Some of the horizontal siding elements you see there and the roof elements are added to the back of the dwelling, the dwelling elevation that faces the Midland.
I think there were some concerns also about the height of the brick. Is that 3 feet?
It is a wainscot, and I'm not certain that is a concern that was conveyed to us yet, so I'm glad that we're hearing that now. So we'll work on identifying that as part of the 3-story dwellings.
Yeah, I'm a fan of brick, I'm a fan of the brick versus the other materials that are being used. I think this is, as some folks have said, beachfront property when you're on the trail, and you want to have the best look possible. And we made that very clear to Pulte when they were doing the the project on Union Street.
Yes, sir.
About the height of the brick and just making it more, in my opinion, attractive. Yeah, so I'd like you and the petitioner to consider that as well.
We will.
Another,
Yeah.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
If you go to the left and right side elevations as well, that, I mean, I don't know what to say about that, but I mean, just seeing those, I mean, I think there needs to be some more stone, more either pop outs on the windows, something to break that up. It just doesn't look very good to me right now, so I would definitely increase the architecture.
We appreciate the specific feedback that we're receiving tonight. We are hopeful that some of this would come out as part of tonight's meeting, and then our additional coordination with staff would result in more detailed comments that we could respond to and enhance the product before we get to Plan Commission.
Could you address, I don't know which photo it would be, but trail access and,
There, as planned currently, there are 2 locations. One would be the extension of the trail that is most adjacent to Gray Road. There would be a connection there on the north side. And then on the interior to the site, if you can point that out, Kevin, the additional connection. So one of the items that we were in discussion with staff regarding was that segment of the trail is pretty heavily wooded, and the desire on the part of the applicant is to maintain that existing tree line along that segment rather than removing it and making the townhomes closer to the trail with more points of access, if you will, from the trail to the individual dwellings. That space is not only a private space for the individual owners of those townhomes because it's their patio space and their balcony space, and we have prepared an additional illustration that'll show you the density of the tree cover that's existing today. So we're going to maintain the existing tree cover with the exception of the trail connection and add landscaping to that so that we're not only enhancing the elevation along the trail, but also enhancing the buffer, because that's the rear yard, as you can see, south of the trail of the neighbors in the community to the south.
now I haven't been on that part of the trail for a while, but somebody had mentioned that the actual existing trees were more, I guess they use the word scrub. So I don't know if the existing tree line there is worth keeping or worth changing and modifying in addition to the landscape that you got on the plan right now. So
We'll look to coordination with staff to further drill down on that.
yeah, I just think it's like I said, a opportunity to beautify along the trail there, and if that is scrub brush or trees that don't provide any real value, maybe there's an opportunity to clean that up.
Yes, sir.
John, thank you for always being so proactive. And I'm going to ask you a question, not necessarily about this project, but about a gas pipeline, because we have this all throughout the community. And frankly, I value what you're going to how you're going to answer this question, because you, I believe, are a true expert in all these matters. Gas pipelines present a pretty big challenge. This site's a pretty big challenge because of the gas pipeline. What can you build and not build and do on that pipeline?
I'm going to qualify my answer by saying it depends.
Correct.
Because it depends on which pipeline company is and whether it's a blanket easement that crosses the property or a defined easement that crosses the site. This particular pipeline allows you to cross it at the minimum opportunities available and at 90 degrees. So you see, as you enter the site, we have to cross the pipeline at 90 degrees with the 2 internal streets. Otherwise, there's no improvement allowed within the pipeline area. That's the darker shaded green area. Can't put a tree, can't put a shrub. And when we cross it, there has to be minimum grade coverage of their facilities on the site so that you maintain a certain distance between the pavement edge or pavement and the depth of their pipe. There are others within the community where you might see parking on top of a pipeline easement, but that's not this particular case. Most often, I think this is a blanket easement that crosses the site, and when we develop the site, we have to define and actually go out there and survey and identify the pipe location, and then they'll accept a definitive easement with a 100-foot easement on either side of the pipeline center.
So, thank you very much. So in Westfield, we have different pipelines crossing throughout the entire city of Westfield. So for those of us that may stare at a playground and a pipeline, myself, that is a different pipeline than what this pipeline is. I'm in Harmony.
Yeah, there's Marathon, Panhandle, or just
Correct,
a
it's-
couple of the two.
As I knew you would know this, so yeah, it's Marathon in front of my house. So, yeah, so that is a different set of rules than this pipeline. Is that what you're telling me then?
It's likely, or that place set that you see out there is in violation, and somebody's going to get a letter soon. These
Don't
folks-
do that to my neighbors. I'm going to
These
fight them
folks
tooth and nail.
fly their easements every month, and they'll identify encroachments immediately, because we're talking about, these are like 700 PSI pipelines that are pushing a significant amount of resources across the country.
Yeah.
And they take their obligation to protect the easement very seriously.
Not necessarily about this project, but I do appreciate you educating us on this. This is something that we talked about at some length because of this project, and also we do recognize the challenge that this presents to you as well. So,
Well, we
thank
appreciate
you.
the input about the architecture as well. We'll work to address that before we return.
Any amenities on this project other than the dog park?
There are, the biggest amenity is the proximity to the Midland Trail and the opportunity that presents. Most of the folks who would desire to live here their attraction to the site is the proximity and the access to the Midland. There's the dog park. There are some benches, some other enhancements that we're making for the more pedestrian-oriented amenities, but really it's an opportunity for folks to lock and leave, because everything outside is maintained by the HOA. If you're not there, no one notices other than the lights aren't on. The grass gets mowed, the landscaping's upkept, and you have the ability to get there on the Midland really quickly and utilize those facilities. We are considering a playground. That hasn't been identified on the site plan yet, but that's another thing that we were asked to consider. So we're trying to figure out what's, based on Fisher's experience and Grand Community's experience, what's the best additional amenity to add based on what they get asked for by their patrons. Or not necessarily patrons, but buyers.
Yeah, who is the ideal buyer for this product?
They see a mix of both first-time buyers. The price point here that we've conveyed to the council is $350 to high $400s, and that's depending on square footage and the unit location. The ones along the Midland, of course, are going to be more, and the higher square footages will be more. But they see a mix of first-time buyers on the more on the values that are on the 350 side, as well as empty nesters who are paying cash and want to, like I said, lock and leave, and have an opportunity to be right there next to the Midland.
Thank you, Councilor McCarty.
Yeah, just because of my prior experience with APC and seeing the first rendition of what was proposed back in 2022 before being withdrawn, I still look at that more fondly than this. So that would just be my feedback for now, and I'm looking forward to getting into the weeds of it at APC. But I still like what was proposed in 22 better compared to what is now being proposed. So we'll just dive into that when the time comes.
Understood.
Thank you. We greatly appreciate it, and thank you for humoring me on my pipeline questions. It is actually very helpful to all of us, particularly as it pertains to this project, but other projects as well. Thank you as always. Moving along this evening, we have the ordinance 24-42, which is the Finley Creek Estates PUD. Mr. Rogers is here this evening.
Yep, thank you, President and members of the council. For the record, Weston Rogers with the Community Development Department. The item presented before you this evening is the Finley Creek Estates Planned Unit Development District. So this is a rezone request to establish the zoning district for a new single-family residential community. The subject real estate is roughly 44 acres in size. It's generally located northeast of the intersection at Fremont Moore and West 193rd Street. This is just north of the recently approved Winterberg development, which you see on the southern portion of the screen there. And this community is proposed to tie into the Atwater community to the east of the proposed site there in red via a stub street. So this proposed ordinance would permit a maximum of 86 single-family homes to be developed on the property in substantial compliance with the concept plan. The proposed ordinance also includes language and exhibits addressing architectural standards, landscaping standards, and amenity standards. Can we pull up the concept plan real quick? Okay, it should just be in the ordinance as an exhibit. So look at the site plan pulled up here for everyone to take a look at. While we're pulling up the site plan, just wanted to mention a public hearing for this item is scheduled to be held at the August 5th Advisory Plan Commission meeting, and a workshop meeting is scheduled to be held at the September 16th Advisory Plan Commission meeting. The petitioner is here this evening. They are available to answer any questions, as am I if there are any for staff. So that wraps up the brief introduction of this item, and with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Do we have any questions for the petitioner this evening? It is a very challenging site, and as Councilor Waniger has mentioned to me, my daughter Finley has nothing to do with this PUD. So, but we do appreciate the name. So, but we do want to recognize the challenge in the site, and then frankly reaching out to us multiple months in advance of introduction, which we greatly appreciate, and working with the administration as well. Moving along, we have ordinance 24-43, which is establishing an equitable impact fee for the purpose of planning and financing road and street infrastructure needed to serve new development in the city of Westfield. Mr. Nail and his family has been delayed by a great Microsoft issue, delaying a lot of airplane travel throughout the country. He is on the phone, like he always, very dedicated, like everyone in the city of Westfield, about this. We did have a first reading on this at our last council meeting. This is road impact fees, which would go into effect in 2025. I know that Mr. Nail's on the phone to answer any questions. Is there any questions for Mr. Nail this evening?
So this is actually, it has not been on there, but we've worked on this with an outside legal team as well, and reading the statute, there only has to be one reading of this. It's already been through APC, it's been voted on, public hearing, certified.
He presented this at the last council meeting.
Yeah, Kayla, I'm glad you pointed that out.
Okay.
So, yeah, for the record, Jonathan Nail, Director of Public Works, City of Westfield. What I presented to the council previously was the road impact fee study, which was an amendment to the comprehensive plan. That is the first step in advance of passing a updated road impact fee ordinance. So I presented this ordinance 24-43 to APC last Monday. There was a public hearing. There were no comments, and APC certified and approved that ordinance. And so per the state statute, there's only needs to be one reading with council, which is tonight, and before you, ordinance 24-43. Hope that makes sense. But Caitlin already jumped in there. I was getting ready to jump in myself.
So it's just the second step?
This would be the final step.
Yeah.
For this, correct, yes.
Got it.
Just wanted to clarify, but you are right that this has been discussed.
Any additional conversation, discussion this evening? Need a motion and a second.
Motion to approve ordinance 2443.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilor McCarty, seconded by Councilor Waniger. Any further discussion? Seeing none, may we call the roll?
Noah Herron,
Yes.
Victor McCarty,
Yes.
Patrick Tam,
Yes.
Kurt Wanninger,
Yes.
John Dart.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Do we have city council comments? Do we have an update from the APC?
Yeah,
Councilor
just
McCarty.
real quick, because our meeting last week was about 14 minutes. All we had on our consent agenda was the refurbishment of the old library now to the school's event center, as well as South Park Industrial, some buildings there on South Park Drive. And then all we had under business was what we just approved, ordinance 2443. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Any other council comments this evening? Councilor Waniger?
Today, the Finance Committee met with Councilor Dart and Councilor Tam, along with Clerk Treasurer Ayler and city staff. DW&A organization gave a historical and current budget presentation of their revenues and expenses and explained their partnerships with the city and with the chamber. So that was a good presentation. A lot of great questions and conversations associated with that. I'd recommend you watch the video online. Also, we had a 2025 budget and schedule update by Deputy Mayor Tolan. And basically, we're on schedule for the budget for this year. Zero-based budgeting is the process we're going through this year, as well as for the counselors that weren't at the meeting. We will be being contacted here shortly, start having meetings with Danielle and the mayor to start having those discussions. We also go through, typically at these meetings, the appropriation fund, revenue funds, and since this was the second quarter, we went through the appropriations report as well. And all those documents are online.
And it's also, just for the public's knowledge, it's our intent to work through the month of September, not the month of October, but the month of September to finalize the budget with the city, so we can file that budget way ahead of schedule versus asking for forgiveness, if you will, so after the fact. So that is what our goal is. At the same time, the mayor has a lot of other activities that he has planned for us too, so we'll be working diligently, particularly in the months of August coming up, in September, with quite a lot of pending projects that the public will see here very soon as well. The mayor is on a well-deserved undisclosed location with his family, but which we enjoy, but so we don't have to bother him this week, or he doesn't have to bother us. I don't know which way it is, but with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.